thought Yeti was a weird name for an SUV. This is the Skoda Karoq, which was appropriated by the people of Kodiak, that little island that gave the bigger Skoda SUV its name. So they went back to those people and said, come up with a name for this new small SUV, which replaces the Yeti. And Karoq is what they came up with, but other names like Icebug and Chinook were also in the mix, apparently. Instead, they went with Karoq, which is a mix of the word Rook, which is a local native tribal name for an arrow, and Karak, which is also a tribal name for a car. So you get Karoq. So it's an interesting name, but it's also a really interesting car.
In truth, this isn't a direct replacement for the Yeti. At launch, it only comes in front-wheel drive, and it doesn't have a diesel engine, yet. It's also longer nose to tail and has a bigger wheelbase for better interior room. Plus, it's wider, and it isn't quite as upright, so it's lower overall as well. The Karoq measures in between the Subaru XV and Honda HR-V, but Skoda calls it a mid-sized SUV, naming things like the Mazda CX-5 and Hyundai Tucson as its rivals. So, it's not huge on the outside, but it still has quite a bit of road presence. And it's not a mini-me version of the Kodiak either, although there are some familiar styling traits. I think it looks really good. There's some nice angles and aggression to the design, and it doesn't quite look as hatchbacky as some of its rivals, but I can't support Skoda's decision to include halogen headlamps as standard. You can get LEDs like this model though. At least you get LED daytime running lights and LED rear lights, and the Karoq comes as standard on 17-inch alloy wheels. You can option up to 19s if you want, and there are several other option packs to choose from too. Read the review for full details. There's only one variant in the Karoq range at launch. Skoda is known for keeping things simple, after all, and the main choice buyers have is whether they want a manual or automatic dual-clutch transmission. The difference in price is $2,300. Power comes from a 1.5-litre turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. We'll get to that soon, but first, let's check out the interior. It may be a fairly small SUV on the outside, but it doesn't feel small on the inside. There are some really clever touches to the way that the cabin is designed and presented. Lots of storage, like a flip-up armrest here with a decent-sized box down here. The two cup holders do sit a little bit close to one another if you've got two large takeaway cups, but maybe you should just get smaller keep cups for the future. And also there is a phone box down here, so you can get wireless charging in there if you need it. Plus, there are smart things like those brilliant little rubbish bins that Skoda puts in some of its models. Terrific idea. The Karoq gets an 8-inch touchscreen media system as standard with Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, Bluetooth and USB connectivity, all those things that you'd expect. In this model, there's a 9.2-inch screen, which is optional, which also includes sat-nav built in and 10 years of maps. If that matters to you, then maybe you should think about it. But for me, I always think that Apple CarPlay and Android Auto is probably the way forward. Also included is a reversing camera, USB input, but just one, Bluetooth phone and audio streaming, dual zone climate control air conditioning, keyless entry, and push button start. Space in the back is pretty good. There's a bit of a limit to knee room with the driver's seat set in my position. I'm about 6 feet tall, but I've got good footroom and plenty of headroom as well. These seats will slide and tilt, which is pretty handy. And if you've got kids, there are ISOFIX child seat anchor points and top tether points as well, which is a big bonus, especially when you consider these seats can be removed completely, which is one of the smarter points about the Skoda Karoq. The Karoq carries over the brilliant VarioFlex seating system of the Yeti with removable rear seats that can also slide fore and aft to improve boot space, and there's a recline function too. Even with the seats all the way back, the boot space is considerably better than cars in the class above. And you have the option of making it a 3 or 4-seater if you want. It's seriously clever and even has a space-saver spare wheel under the boot floor. Now, what about how it drives? It's based on the same platform as the Volkswagen Golf, so it should drive pretty well.
One thing that might rule out the Karoq for some buyers is the lack of variety in the drivetrains. There's just the one petrol engine with manual or automatic, and that could mean, well, you might look elsewhere. Some other SUVs in this class tend to have diesels and all-wheel drive and that sort of stuff, and Škoda says that will come, it's just a matter of time. There might be a lot of global demand to stop it happening immediately, but expect by late 2019 there could be an all-wheel drive variant available. And that could go a long way to solving some of the problems with the Karoq. Not that they're really problems, because it really is aimed at city buyers. And let's be realistic, you're not actually going to go camping, you're not actually going to go off-roading. This is the sort of car that fits in the city. It's a well-judged little SUV. One thing that's impressed me is the steering of the Karoq. At low speeds it's really light, which makes it simple to park, while at higher speeds it has a good level of assuredness to it. There's nice weighting and resistance on centre, and it changes direction really easily. It's quite responsive too. And while it may not be the sportiest thing to drive in the segment, it doesn't have a sporty ride either, and that's a good thing because it's not sharp. Even on the bigger wheel package, the ride is really well sorted. Sure, you might get a little bit of thump through the front axle if you hit a sharp edge, but a lot of small and medium SUVs suffer from that too.
Fuel use differs a little between the manual and automatic models, but it's minimal. And over my time in the car, I saw about 7.5 litres per 100. You just need to make sure you fill up with premium unleaded. Škoda offers a strong ownership plan, a 5-year unlimited kilometre warranty, and you can either pre-purchase a servicing plan and bundle that into your finance, or run by the cap price servicing plan, which requires maintenance every 12 months or 15,000 Ks. So no, the Škoda Karoq doesn't come with things like a diesel drivetrain or all-wheel drive. Well, not at the time of launch. It may happen later on down the track. But at the moment, it's hitting the market where it needs to be hit. Petrol and affordable, and that's exactly why you should consider it, because it is a very good car, it's got very good equipment and it's compelling value, plus the ownership promise is pretty strong as well. If you're looking at a small SUV or even a mid-sizer, then you should definitely take a look at the Karoq. If you like this video, be sure to hit that like button and also share it with your friends and family. And don't forget to subscribe.